Beautiful people, what would Call of Duty be like if there was no skill-based matchmaking? Would the sweats just completely demolish all of the new and bad players, forcing them to leave and play a different game? I was thinking about this because I was having an existential crisis because I got to the point where I was actually purposefully not doing so well in Call of Duty just to have the chance of getting in a better lobby. So then I thought to myself, am I even really that good at Call of Duty if this is what I have to do to have fun? In fact, was I ever even good at Call of Duty to begin with? Well, lucky for us, beautiful people, I have video evidence. So let's take a look at a handful of games that we have here in Modern Warfare 2 with skill-based matchmaking. I'm going to show you the end scoreboards of a handful of games here, and I just want you to notice how close that the kills and deaths are of all of these people. I'm not going to go through them individually or do any sort of math or statistics here, but you can see, yes, there are some standouts. Yes, there's like a 43 and 27. Yes, I got a 2 KD, 28-13. But as we continue on through these things, even if I myself do really good or someone else on the other team does really good, that's kind of the standout. That's uncommon. Most of the time you're going to see people going even, going somewhat negative, going somewhat positive. It's all pretty close to each other, especially in this game of farm right here. A lot of people have 20, 30 kills, which is quite a bit, as we're going to see. It's quite a bit compared to Call of Duty of the past, but they all also have 20 to 30 deaths, even 40 deaths. There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of gunfights happening here in modern Call of Duty. And you can see this hard point here on farm is probably the biggest blowout here. This is when I really gave up and was just like, fine, I'm going to go super negative. I'm going to try to do some like weird challenge or something, try to get some progression while I'm going bad or going negative. Probably was doing a launch or whatever. But this is the biggest blowout that I really had in all of my saved games. We see the other team have a 33 and 12, 25 and 14, 23 and 16, which really even that isn't super noticeable or super terrible. Even our team, 17 and 27, 15 and 22, that's not horrible. I mean, there's definitely been worse. We're gonna see worse, but that's the worst. That's the harshest game that I've seen, or at least that's I could find on my saves. But now, beautiful people, let's head on back to Modern Warfare 3 and say hello to Woody's gamertag. So I just pulled up a couple random games from Woody's gamertag, just gameplay commentaries, and I wanted to see what his lobbies were like here. Of course, keep in mind, all of these games that we're going to watch here on YouTube are cherry-picked games where Woody and myself did fairly good, but we get to see what a good lobby was like back in the day. And the first thing that you'll probably notice is that, yes, Woody went 36 and 2, but also look how few interactions there are. Look how slow this game feels. 16 kills, 12 kills, 8 kills, 8 kills. Look at the other team, 9 kills, 4 kills. That's insane. And here's what a blowout game actually looks like. Look at all of those deaths on the enemy team. 8 and 38, 8 and 24, 51 and 17 for C65, whoever that is. This is an interesting scoreboard. Obviously, Woody went off 27 and 11, which really back in the day wasn't all that great. We got a 23 and 8 over there, which that wasn't even that great. But look at the bottom two on his own team, 2 and 22, 5 and 11. That's not great. That's not the even keel fair team balance that we have now in skill-based matchmaking. This is probably one of the most beautiful examples of a balanced lobby here. He's playing free-for-all. Obviously, he did really well, 30 and 7. The next guy down did pretty good, 20 and 8. And then the next couple guys, pretty even, 16, 13. He's got a 10 and 8 right here. This guy didn't do super well, but look at these bottom two guys, 5 and 23, 3 and 20. You get a huge spectrum and variety of players all within this lobby. But now let's take a look at some Donuts gameplay. All of this gameplay can be found on my channel in the Call of Duty Ghost playlist, but I would highly recommend not watching it because the videos are garbage. So obviously I did pretty good here with a 25 and 2, but besides me, take a look at my own team. We've got an 8 and 10, 8 and 13, 10 and 10, fairly average, 15 and 9, that's pretty good. Look at the enemy team, 13, 15, 13, 13, 10, 12, 10, 15. None of these guys got absolutely destroyed. These guys, I would say, are average or even above average players right here, and obviously, there are some teammates that I had were below average players. So even though me, probably an above average player, was killing them quite frequently, they were able to get more kills on these guys because the lobby was balanced. Another great example of this, look at this, 37 and 17, 21 and 19, above average players, but still we have an 11 and 13, a 14 and 12, some average players, and then we get a 10 and 16, a 6 and 19, some below average players. That was the formula for a Call of Duty lobby. Look, this guy, even though I went 37 and 7, this guy didn't have a bad experience because he was an above average player, or at least it looks like it. At least for this game, he played like an above average player. 24 to 14, that's pretty good. 18, 17, 14, 17, that's not too bad. And then we start getting into the 12 and 18, 8 and 17, 6 and 20, some of the below average players. Once again, I have to mention, this is probably one of the biggest blowouts that I've seen on the few videos that I watched here. 55 and 4, and my team did okay. 19, 18, 22, 11, that's 2 KD. Positive here, super negative here, but look at how few kills all of the enemy team got. Remember in the Modern Warfare 2 scorecards that I showed you, everybody was getting 10, 20, 30, 40 kills every single game. No matter how good they did, how bad they did, they were all sitting around that 20 to 30 kill range. Look at how few kills this poor soul got. 5 and 19, 6 and 24, 5 and 12, 4 and 17. You can clearly see on this scorecard who had a better game. Now this feels insane to me. Look at, I went 54 and 15, which is absurd. I would kill to do that here in Modern Warfare. But look at the next guy down. 18 and 38, 18 and 30, 9 and 31. I was the one going off on my own team, but my team still got destroyed. 18 and 34, 15 and 38. This guy got 44 kills, 25 stats. Look at 32, 36, 22, 35. This is, it's so different. It's such a different experience. It's such a varied experience. You can see the highs, the lows. The last scorecard I showed you, they got like 10 kills, 5 kills, 8 kills. This guy is getting 44, 32, and I'm still getting the 50 kills. I'm still doing, above average. Now, beautiful people, I have to remind you, this is Call of Duty Ghost, and we just saw Modern Warfare 3 2 from Woody's Gamertag. This was the peak of Call of Duty in terms of the hype, the excitement, the players playing and learning and trying to be good at Call of Duty. We had so many players. This wasn't like Call of Duty 4 or World at War where people were starting to figure things out. No, people were figuring it out. There was YouTube tutorials, there was tips, there was Woody's Gamertag, T Martin, Xbox Ahoy, the classics, teaching people how to be good at this game. But to see the variety and the depth and the range of players from good to bad to great to awful, it was so great to see that reflected in the scoreboard. In my Modern Warfare 2022 review, when I said I don't know if I'm a good Call of Duty player, I mean it. I don't know if I'm a good Call of Duty player because there's no evidence, there's no statistics, there's no gameplay experience that reflects me being a good Call of Duty player anymore. But as we can clearly see here in the past, it really feels like I was at a certain point in time a great Call of Duty player. But there's a big problem here, beautiful people. Going back to this system without skill-based matchmaking, honestly, for me, would be so amazing. But we have to be careful for what we wish for, because before skill-based matchmaking, there was skill-based team balancing. Let me show you what I mean. Here we have a game of team deathmatch where I got 31 kills and only died 13 times. And yet, as you can see, we lost. The next player down went 11 and 14, then 6 and 18, 2 and 6, and then 2 and 1. Now the enemy team didn't have that many standouts either. 19 and 8, that's pretty darn good. But then 17 and 15, 16 and 7 is pretty good. 12 and 10, 10 and 10, This is skill-based team balancing. This is where it feels like the game picks one of the strongest players and pairs them with the 5 lowest players in the lobby. Now, this is done in an effort to balance the lobby because obviously the guy who's going to get 30 kills in a team deathmatch can probably carry the guys who's not going to get more than 4 or 5 kills. But then again, that leads to some frustration when you get 30 kills in a team deathmatch and you still lose. Beautiful people, I was screaming this from the rooftops during Call of Duty Ghosts all the way through World War II. I hated this aspect of skill-based team balancing. And beautiful people, if you want an even better example, check out this scoreboard. This scoreboard drives me insane to this day. Beautiful people, I got 49 kills in a 75 kill game of team deathmatch. And we lost. My man went 8 and 19, 1 and 11, and then his split screener, which I don't even know if you can split screen in Call of Duty anymore. That's how long it's been since I've seen a split screener, went for a combined total of 1 and 22 deaths. But again, this is a great example of, hey, I popped off. I had a great game. I would love if I had to go 49 and 16 every game and I would lose every team deathmatch to this day. If you're asking me right now, I'd do it. I'd make that sacrifice. Totally, I'd be able to do that. But look at the enemy team, 25 and 6, 15 and 9. Even Even though I went off with my 49 and 16, they were still able to eat good. They were still able to devour my team because that's how the team balancing was. There was enough for everybody to go around. And this is a great little microcosm of the whole Call of Duty experience, what it used to be. You had a really good player, 25 and 6, and then a couple good players, 15 and 9, 14 and 12, a little bit average or above average, and then you had a below average player, 4 and 13. Perfectly balanced. You had the spectrum of Call of Duty players all within every single match. Where you were on the scoreboard in previous Call of Duties mattered. That was your feedback. That was how you know how good of a player you were. If someone down there was talking smack to you, all you would need to go was, what? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you from way up on top of the scoreboard. So if we didn't have skill-based matchmaking as it is implemented today with Modern Warfare 2 and the modern Call of Duties, would we go back to this sort of also not fair version of skill-based team balancing? If that were the case, if we reverted back to the skill-based team balancing, I think I would be a lot happier, because at the very least, I would know that personally, I know exactly how good of a Call of Duty player I am. Now, the reason this skill-based team balancing might have sucked a little bit extra in Call of Duty Ghost was because we had this thing called Clan Wars, and with Clan Wars, you had to get a certain amount of wins in all of these different modes, and so when we tried to go for wins, you would get paired with the worst players, and you'd go up against players who were in a party, and they would just steamroll you, and it was a frustrating experience, but that was neither here nor there. That doesn't happen anymore, so that's kind of a weird variable here. I'm going to show you this picture of Farm on a hardpoint again, where it seems like a blowout, but compared to what we just saw, I mean, no one's getting chopper gunners. No one's getting AC-130s. No one's getting juggernauts. Like that was the thing in old Call of Duties. You would get kill streaks. That would be your reward for doing really good. And those lobbies, beautiful people, those lobbies were so fun because you'd have those 2 or 3 players who would run in the open and make bad decisions, and you could farm up those guys and you could camp for those guys. But then you would see the good player and you would memorize the good player. You could do it in today's Call of Duty too. You know exactly what skin they're using. You know what gun they're using, you know what they look like. It's the guy in the ghillie suit with the sniper rifle. He's gonna quick scope you. You develop that rivalry that like, oh, I'm gonna get a kill streak, but when I see him, oh, your brain does something. It's another game within the game, as opposed to now with skill-based matchmaking, every single person you play against is obviously of your own skill level, so every engagement's terrifying. So there are no easy kills, there are no easy kill streaks, there are no bad players that you can kind of race to kill versus the other good players on the other team. That sort of finesse, that's the variety, that's the gameplay variety that everyone's talking about that we had before skill-based matchmaking. And I am so happy and so relieved that there is video evidence of this. Look up the scoreboards of old Call of Duty games. You can clearly see the variety. Obviously, there were games where we probably got stomped. We were the ones going 9-19 and 8-38 and whatever. But you climbed that ladder. You got better. You watched YouTube videos. You trained with stinging bots with your aim and your reaction time. You watched exclusive aces. I remember watching exclusive aces spawn guides for Call of Duty Ghosts to learn better and get better. And I got chem strikes. I got Moabs in Modern Warfare 3. And I can't even get like an SAE on every map in Modern Warfare 2. And none of that is being gate kept by anybody. If you want to do better in Call of Duty, train, get better. We don't just want a pub stomp. I mean, honestly, that's not it. We want our real skill to be reflected on the scoreboard. We want our skill to be reflected on our stats. The scoreboard in Call of Duty is now bad at representing your skill because it's such a small, limited sample size. I actually found a video that has a chart that explains this very beautifully. So first of all, shout out to the War Owl. He's a CSGO YouTuber, I think, and he had this beautiful explanation for skill-based matchmaking here. Link is in the description of this video, by the way. So you've probably seen this before. This is the population or the player count, and this is the skill level. Obviously, most players are going to be average. We're going to have fewer players of high skill and fewer players of really bad skill, but we'll have most players here in the average. He uses the example of Tim the Tatman because Tim actually had a recent video go viral because of skill-based matchmaking, whatever. With strict skill-based matchmaking, his lobbies are going to be from here to here. You can see it's about his skill level, and it's all going to be above average players. They're all going to play similarly. They're all going to use the meta guns. They're all going to be trying hard. They're going to be doing the things that Tim does, the strategies that they do that are above average strategies. If this is our sample size and Tim comes last, if you come last in your sample size, at worst, you are still above average, but you have absolutely no way of knowing where you are on the scale at all. However, if we remove skill-based matchmaking, we will have an increased sample size of hopefully the entire Call of Duty player base. All players from the worst of the worst to the best of the best. So if you do very, very poorly in this huge sample size, you know you're probably one of the worst of the worst, or at least that game you're the worst of the worst. But if you are on top of the lobby, that means you are over here somewhere, one of the best of the best. But as you can see, the important difference here is that if you are an above average player, if this is your sample size, you are better, obviously, than the average, than most of the players, which means most of the time, your hard work, your skill is going to be reflected and paid off in your lobbies, in your scoreboards, in your kill streaks. It's going to be reflected in all of those things. So what would Call of Duty look like without skill-based matchmaking? Well, hopefully we have a better idea now. We would get a larger sample size, and probably players would do better and some players would do worse, but at least everybody's skill level would be accurately represented and rewarded. And if those terrible players decided to watch a YouTube video or to train and to practice and try to actually get better, then their efforts would actually be rewarded, as opposed to right now, where if they got better, then they would just move up a skill bracket and they would have the same experience as they have ever had. I could talk about this for ages, beautiful people. Tell me your thoughts on skill-based matchmaking. What do you think? Hopefully that was just a fun little thing to go back and to see some cool games and cool scoreboards of Call of Duty Ghosts and Modern Warfare 3 back in the good old days of Call of Duty. And man, oh man, I wish we could have that again. That would be so much fun. Speaking of fun, you might want to check out that video, subscribe, and stay beautiful.